Hey everyone, welcome back to Poplar Preparedness. We got a whole bunch of information here about the railroad strike that's upcoming in the next 16 hours, it looks like. I am not going to just give you a bunch of mumbo jumbo. I'm going to give you a bunch of facts. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of talk about what the implications of this are going to be. How is this going to impact you? What facilities are going to go offline? I have a coal plant insider that we're going to be hearing from to talk about what's going on with the coal-fired plants and how this railroad strike could dramatically impact the electricity supply this winter, how that all kind of works out. You're going to want to hear from him. We're going to be talking about what products we may be losing shortly, what to do and how to prepare for the chaos to come. And really big, we're going to be hearing how this is going to potentially impact farmers who are looking at the harvest of corn right now. They need those silos to be empty, the grain elevators to be empty, so they can put their corn in those silos. If they are not empty, this is potentially going to really disrupt the crop harvest that is happening right now, folks. Let's jump into these facts right now. First off, some people have been saying that, congressional authority may stop this strike in its tracks. The bill that has been working its way through Congress has been shut down. Bernie Sanders and the Senate Dems scuttled the only legislation that is pending to avert the strike. So we are not looking at legislation that is going to stop this strike. The only other question is, and it really shouldn't happen, but the question of whether executive authority will be used by the president. That is an overreach of his powers. Whether he'll still do it, I don't know. But the fact that it was the Democrats in the Senate that actually scuttled this makes me think that he probably won't want to fight against his own party. So there is that. So it looks like this strike is going to go ahead unless the railroad executives and the union leaders can hammer out some sort of deal in the next few hours. We're looking at 7,000 trains a day stopped. One of the biggest things that we're going to be looking at here are chemicals, okay? A lot of these chemical plants, whether it's a refinery making fuel distillates, we're going to be seeing that these plants use a lot of products that come in by rail. Now, most oil moves by the pipeline, and then most of the gasoline and diesel will move out by pipeline. But there's a lot of chemicals that need to come into these facilities by rail that are used in the process. And when those rail cars stop, that means that production could potentially be halted on things like diesel, gasoline. This is a big deal. 55,000 carloads of chemicals a week move to these facilities. We may see plastics facilities come offline in the next little bit. We may see refineries have to shut down. There was that big foam. They made like foam insulation down in Texas, and they had guaranteed contracts with the Texas power grid that they would never be shut off from power, because if they did, the foam moving through their facility would harden and would clog up all the machines, and so shutdown was not an option. Well, they got their power shut off, and it just clogged and gummed everything up. How many facilities like that need to stay in operation, or else it could cause catastrophe for their equipment? They need chemicals to keep flowing in, and in order to shut things down, it can take, some of these facilities, it takes like a week to shut down the whole facility. And then it takes even longer than that to restart these facilities. These are massive industrial complexes. They need the chemicals flowing into them. They need the power, the energy, and everything like that on. They can't just flip the switch and turn it off, right? So as I said, gasoline and diesel production could be impacted severely in the next little bit. Gasoline requires ethanol and isobutane. Both of those are coming in by rail cars. Now, it is possible to just change the distillate of gasoline so that you aren't using the ethanol. So you can do that without the ethanol, but you need the isobutane. Like, you literally have to shut down production if you don't have the isobutane coming in by rail cars. So the question is how much they have that stockpiled at different refineries, how much of that is just-in-time deliveries. That is a question we are looking like we're going to find out in the next little bit. Diesel production as well. You need chemicals for the production of diesel as well. Plastics, like I mentioned, plastic facilities may go offline. That could be devastating to things. And then you just look at all the other chemical processes, all the chemicals out there that are used for solvents and all that. How many of those will be taken offline? Now, we've already seen that these chemical rail cars have been parked as of the beginning of this week. So when we talk about isobutane and ethanol, those are already parked. It's not like they may get parked. They've already gotten parked. A lot of these chemicals are already stopped, and these production facilities are already dealing with the loss of those rail cars. But let's talk about the coal plants. So Jeff, who is a worker at a coal plant here in Pennsylvania, was able to give us a lot of backstory of kind of how the coal plants keep things alive. And as he said, basically that during the winter, when it gets really cold, that's when the coal-fired plants need to pick up their game, because federal law requires that they shut off natural gas power plants when the pressure on the lines gets too low. So all the residential people are using that natural gas for heating of their homes, and the power plants are tapping those same lines. So when the residential use goes up because it's cold and people are heating their homes, they have to shut down the natural gas power plants, which means that they're going to be heavily reliant upon the coal plants when it gets really cold, especially up here in Pennsylvania and other northern states. So coal-fired plants need to pick up that slack because the natural gas gets shut off. What is happening right now is that, at least with their coal power plant in Pennsylvania, it is currently shut down for maintenance, preparing for the winter, and they are stockpiling that coal. The problem is that they keep ordering coal, but they're only getting half the rail cars of coal that they order. This has been going on for well over a year. They've only been getting 50% of the coal that they're ordering. Okay? And we're going to desperately need these coal-fired plants this winter. And as they're desperately trying to pile up as much coal for winter as they can, because they don't have enough, we now have this railroad strike that could make it so that they do not receive any coal over the next bit. So the question is how much is this going to impact the energy grid this winter? And the answer is it could be pretty devastating. The question is I don't know how much they're going to be able to catch up with that, where they're going to be able to just load up more cars and bring those cars later once the strike is over. We don't know. But what we do know is that this strike is going to be devastating to not just the economy, but also to the power plants this winter. You will feel the effect of this come December, January, February. You may not see the effect of this yet, that coal pile at the power plant is lower than what it normally is, but you'll feel it then. Also, it is corn harvesting time across the Midwest, and they desperately need the rail cars to move their corn out of the silos. They need those grain elevators to be empty. They fill them up, and they need the trains to come and empty them in order for the corn to keep going into the silos. Some of the feed corn and stuff like that, they can do things with that. My brother's told me before about how a lot of them will pile up the corn on their farmyard, basically, and let the bottom rot. But then it keeps, the top stays relatively good. But that starts to degrade relatively quickly. If that's what a lot of farmers are doing, they're going to lose a lot of that crop. and it becomes unfit for human consumption then. So the question is if we want food for human consumption, we need the trains to be moving the corn, and we need them to move a heck of a lot of corn over the next little bit. And with all those rail cars parked because of the strike, this is going to be truly, truly catastrophic. So if we have the strike go on for any bit of time whatsoever, that's going to really impact the corn harvest right now. Also, what's going to happen too is that we've already seen that chemicals for the fertilizer have already been halted. Some of those chemicals are unstable chemicals, and so they've been considered hazardous waste, and so that they have already stopped moving. They've already been parked, and that fertilizer is not moving, which is fertilizer that these farmers will need for next year and for prepping for planting winter wheat. All these things, there's a cycle to it. They need the products to keep moving in order for farmers to be able to do the next part of their cycle in preparation for the next harvest. So farmers will be dramatically impacted by this rail strike if it moves forward. And they've already been impacted somewhat by this because their fertilizer not moving. We're also hearing from a number of you guys saying that that Amtrak trains started stopping as early as Monday. They were saying that any routes that were not going to be able to be completed by midnight Thursday night would have to be halted, and that they were already halting those things. But I heard from a number of you via email that they've already heard of trains being stopped as early as Monday, Tuesday. So how much of this is just people walking off the job? How much of this is just problems in communication or fears? Remember, Amtrak uses the freight railroads, right? So the rail lines are shared between freight and Amtrak, which is why Amtrak is just so terrible to travel with. It's because you're using the same lines that the freight trains are. But because of that, a strike on the freight side is going to bring the passenger trains down to a halt as well. And so we're seeing that unfolding right now. If you guys have more information about what may be the impacts of this, if you hear at your workplace that this is going to dramatically impact you and your workplace, please let me know either by email at poplarpreparedness@gmail.com, or you can pop it down in the comments down below and use the word update on there, and I will protect your anonymity as best I can. All right, folks, if you found this video useful, you might want to check out this other video from me here. If you want to sign up for the free wound care bucket giveaway, make sure you have signed up to my newsletter. I am going to be pulling that name out of the hat from the newsletter email list later today, and I will be emailing that person directly to get their contact information for where to ship that bucket. So make sure you do sign up for that. Plus, that way you stay in contact with me. I won't abuse it, I promise. Actually, I haven't really sent out any of these emails recently, so I do want to be able to connect with you in case I do get booted off this platform. All right, folks, I will see you guys later. Steve Poplar, out.